Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It is a beautiful Thursday morning, August 11th, 2022. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time and talk strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories. Today, we're going to go revisit the topic from yesterday. Because of time constraints, we didn't dig into it quite as diligently as we probably should have, or I just didn't have the time frame to do so. But based upon a lot of feedback from a number of you, a lot of questions, a lot of interest, I wanted to go back and take a deeper dive and mainly give time to vet through the questions, comments, concerns that each of you have. So let's step back first and not even worrying about the agenda for a moment. What is it that you and I do as technical advisors? We do three things, don't we? We help technical advisors to small businesses, I should say. Three things. We help build financial literacy. We help build lender compliant loan packages, and we help people become credible enough on paper to get approved for funding. So those are the big three. Now, how we go about it, there's different campaigns, different strategies. A few weeks ago, we launched the SBA Express Program. Has just been knocking it out of the park. Exceeded our expectations. Hopefully it has exceeded yours as well. I mean, if you look at your pocketbook, you can your checkbook, your bank account, you can pretty easily determine, is this making you more money than you were making before off the different campaigns? I suspect many of you will say yes. So with the SBA Express program, it by design is an online on-demand type of approach. However, what we're talking about today, which is a follow-up from yesterday, is we can take this, you and I, we can take this into local communities, do it face-to-face, complete the process in one day, one business day together, and be applying for funding before everyone goes home. That's a big deal, a big deal. So let's go ahead and revisit what I covered yesterday. I'm sorry if you were on yesterday and if it was redundant, but let's do a refresher. And I really want to dig in and pick the brains. We've got some really talented people. We've got Frankie on the call, got Juan on the call, Nikki, a bunch of really, Alfred, a bunch of talented people, Bernard and others. So I want to get your feedback from this. But for those of you that weren't on yesterday, let's go ahead and recap this approach to doing those three things that you and I do, right? What are the three things? We help build financial literacy of small businesses. Secondly, we help build lender compliant loan packages. And third, we help overcome credibility issues that impact access to capital. All right, so with that being said, our topic is we're looking for coordinators. Now, you could, as a coordinator, you could be a white label partner or a referral partner, doesn't really matter. But the bottom line is that's the role that we're describing for this campaign. All right, and so what is the subline or the pitch? Because obviously we can help a lot of other people, but what of course we have to answer first is specifically what's in it for you. And so what's in it for you is the ability, and you can see how you control the pricing, but the ability to earn about $2,000 for facilitating the one-day workshop, which isn't get rich, but it's not bad. And then secondly, to earn quite a bit on the back end. So let's go through how it's set up, make sure that you understand, and again, get your feedback, because your feedback's very important, right? Either this is something you say, wow, this is a strategy that I see that I could go help people, I could implement, and I can make a lot of money, or no, none of those. And so that feedback is important. So bullet one, what we want to do is come to your community. Take Isa, for example. Isa's a really smart, motivated gentleman. Talked to him most recently yesterday. He's up in St. Louis, Missouri. So for example, Isa, we want to come up to St. Louis, work with you, set up and conduct a one-day workshop together to prepare the attendees, which would be small business owners, to help them get prepared to access SBA 7A Express loan. And so what's in it for you again? Because I know not that ISA needs money, but any of you that are distribution partners, obviously you're motivated by helping people, but also putting money in your pocket. It's an ability to earn about $2,000 up front, and I'll show you the methodology on that, and then get back end off the client's capital raise. So let's flip the topic for a moment from you. So there's clearly financial rewards for you. But let's step back and discuss what is in it for the attendee. Why would someone want to come to the workshop that you and I would conduct, ISA, in St. Louis or surrounding area, or Joseph in Northwest Arkansas, or so forth, Bernard in Vegas? Why would people want to attend? Well, it's a one-day hands-on workshop. We're going to provide them the professional assistance in building out their loan packages, so we can literally apply for funding the same day. Well, there's a lot of, and I hate to call it ignorance, because I feel that that's too strong, but we'll go with, there's a lack of financial literacy with a lot of people. And that's probably the biggest challenge you and I have. A lot of people just think, oh, if I want money, I just apply for it. Well, what we first need to do is identify the right source of capital. We need to get the packaging together and make sure that we qualify for that. And so what we're going to do together, you and I would do in Vegas, Bernard, or St. Louis, ISA, or in Bentonville, Joseph, so forth, is we're going to help them during this one-day in-person workshop. We're going to build out their SBA lender required business plan. So literally, we're going to sit down and complete that. It's how long? You all know the secret. It's one page. What it takes to get this SBA loan is not a big drawn out business plan. It's a one pager that answers the specific questions that the lender wants to see. So we're going to do that together. That's part of the day we'll spend with them. We're going to sit down and help them put together the required financial projections in the specific format that the lender is looking for. See, that's the key. We're going in and doing exactly what the lender wants to see. They don't want generic. They don't want normal templates. They want it in a specific way. We know exactly what the lender wants. That's what you and I are going to help these people do during this one-day class. And we're also going to fill out the applications so we can actually submit them. Literally, while we're in the room together, we're going to submit every one of them in for funding. And so that's the what. That's the why that the attendees would want to attend. Now, if you want to be a devil's advocate, an attendee could say, well, why should I attend this one-day workshop? And you and I could say, well, hey, if you don't need help getting up to $150,000 SBA loan, why haven't you done it yourself? And then they're going to start pulling out of orifices excuses. They don't know how, they're not prepared, they're not ready. Well, that's what you and I are doing. We're getting them from there to here so we can go apply. So you and I don't have time for naysayers, right? So if they want the help and they want to receive exactly what you and I are promising, then they can sign up and attend. And we'll talk about money in a minute. If they don't want to, fine. They can sit at home broke and you and I will go help other people. I mean, it doesn't really matter to you and I. There's plenty of people to help. Third bullet, all participants in the in-person SBA workshop, what we've been talking about, is going to receive the $1,500 grant allocation. So they don't have to pay the $2,500, do they? No, they're getting a $1,500 grant allocation off the top. Great for them. And that reduces their loan package fee to $1,000. And then, as we'll talk about more in a few minutes, and we talked about yesterday, then you can mark that up as you would like. There's no cost to you to be an SBA workshop coordinator. So we're not trying to recruit you. This isn't Ponzi, MLM, network marketing, some paid business opportunity. There's no cost for you to be a workshop coordinator. We'll describe the specific process and how you make money and what your responsibilities are, but we're not trying to sell you something. You can be a white label partner or not. You can be a referral partner or not, affiliate or not, whatever. But it's a great way to earn income. As an SBA workshop coordinator, if you want to just set up one class one time, let's just set one up for later this month in August or September, and let's just see how it goes. Maybe you'll make as much money as we project that you will or should or could. Maybe you don't. And after that, if you want to do more, we can do more. We can set up ongoing classes. Now, the key to having volume of ongoing classes is having host relationships, key influencers, churches, chambers, banks, and so forth. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later down the agenda. But it's not as if we're saying, well, you would need to go find people to attend these classes every time on your own. Well, that's possible. And some of you have a big enough sphere of influence that that's usually not going to feed the funnel on an ongoing campaign. Again, there's no question that this is valuable, that it's needed, and that you can make a lot of money. So I think we're beyond that. But above and beyond that, let's go ahead and talk about specifically what's in it for the clients. Why would an entrepreneur, whether they be pre-launch, startup, or existing, why would they want an SBA 7A Express loan, which is the outcome? That's what we're working on in the one-day class, right? Because what I've learned, and you probably have learned this long before me, if you explain to people what's in it for them, then they're much more likely to say yes. But if you just talk about what's in it for you, or you're very generic, then they're less likely to say yes. And so this is something that you need to be familiar with, and of course we are. So why would someone want to attend the workshop? So we can put together the package. But what's the end goal? The end goal is to prepare them for an SBA 7A Express loan. Well, why is that a good deal? Well, it's funding very quickly. So we work with a preferred bank partner. And so when we talk about timelines, we're not talking about our timelines, so we're just making something up that sounds good. No, this is from the bank, from the federally chartered bank that is an SBA authorized lender, right? So we're not making anything up. That'd be bad. So this is fact. We can help them get up to 150,000 in as little as 10, and technically it's 10 business days. We've talked about that. That's pretty good. Now you're going to have some people come to you and say, well, I want my $150,000 tomorrow, or this is a scam. And you know, they've got financial illiteracy printed all over their forehead, because people are often unrealistic, or they're just so illiterate that they don't understand what they're saying is craziness. But regardless, I mean, this is truth. And either they like truth or they don't like truth, but this is truth. We're usually getting same-day approvals. Now, I should have put an asterisk by this, because I'm setting myself up for failure. Because what will happen is you and I will set up this workshop, we'll teach it, let's say Joseph. So Joseph and I, I'm sure, will set up one of these workshops in Bentonville, Arkansas, somewhere in Northwest Arkansas. Joseph's well-connected. He gets the attendees. The approval is quick. The lender states same day, but what you and I know is if we go, Joseph, you and I take these people through this class, and then starting at 3 p.m., we start submitting the applications for the SBA loan, it's going to be the next day. So it's typically the same day if we apply early in the day, but obviously in this case, we're going to be applying late in the day. So we can get their application in. We'll help them fill out the application and get it submitted to the bank and get a confirmation of it, but it'll be the next day before we get the approval. Obviously, no risk. We have a written guarantee. Everything that we do is in writing. Yes, startups qualify for SBA loans, and you and I have talked about that before. Again, a lot of people are wrong. A lot of people are financially illiterate, or a lot of people just, they understand just a little bit, and then they extrapolate out what they think they know. So is it true that some banks say that you can't apply for an SBA loan if you're a startup defined as 2 years or less in business? Yes, some banks will say that. Not because the SBA says that, because what you and I are going by is the SBA standard operating procedures, and the bank we work with will accept startups. Is it true that some banks that are SBA guaranteed lenders will not accept a startup? Yes, but that's the bank rule, not the SBA rule, and it's certainly not the rule of the bank that we're working with. So yes, startups qualify. And of course, it's a very low credit requirement. So, and we'll work on that during the course of the day as well. So if you're not familiar with all the benefits of the SBA Express program, you can go look at the website. There's a little video and all of that. But what we've covered so far, let's recoup for a moment. So we're talking to you, not trying to sell you something or pitch you on something, but asking if you would like to coordinate where we could do some in-person education in your community. You can get paid a lot, and we'll break that down and talk about that more in a moment, to help people put together their SBA loan package, working towards an SBA 7A Express loan that is very, very attractive. And we'll get that done in one day. So let's pause there. We're going to talk about the role of the coordinator and your comp more in a moment. But are you all as excited as I am about this proposition? Let's go get in front of people. Let's spend one day together and get them from where they're at now to where they need to be to get that application in. Is that not huge? Is that not exciting? Is that not motivating to you? It is to me. So any questions, comments, concerns so far on the background section of this page? Okay, let's roll forward. If you have any, just post them into the Q&A, please. All right, so we need to make sure that you know what you're going to be doing if you want to be a workshop coordinator and how you're paid. So your primary role is to manage the logistics of this one-day workshop. So first of all, you've got to figure out where and when you want to have this. So as far as the where, if you have a room, if you want to do it at the library, we've done them in churches, basements of churches, hotel meeting rooms, office meeting rooms. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's up to you. But that's part of your job, is to go find a location. Keep in mind that we're going to have this workshop. It's structured from 8, because we've got to get through a lot of material. We'll have a lunch break, of course, but from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. local time. So if you want to be a workshop coordinator, you have to be able to come up with a location. If you can't come up with a location, then there's not going to be a workshop, and then you're really not a coordinator, right? So that makes sense. The second is you're responsible for processing the registrations, and normally we would use Eventbrite. You're expected to be there on the day of the event, the day of the workshop. Now, if you want to help co-teach it with myself or whomever comes out, one of us that are what we call qualified instructors, we'll definitely be there. We're not pushing the burden on you, but if you want to help co-teach, you enjoy that, great. If you don't, you want to be just more the facilitator, the MC, that's fine. That's your call. And then I made reference to earlier, so if we know what we're doing is valuable, we've talked about the content, so I'm not going to revisit it. We know who our targets are. We're looking for small business owners of either pre-launch startup or existing businesses that's looking for additional capital to start to grow, to reach their potential, and to put together an SBA loan package for up to $150,000. And Joseph's pointing out, and Joseph, you're right, SBA loans do go higher than $150,000. Absolutely. Actually, they go up to about 5 million. But that's not the program we're doing, Joseph. So that's a different set of documents. It's not going to be done in one day, and it's not the simplified express programs. Joseph, fine, you're right. SBA loans can be much bigger, but you and I cannot get a group of people together and put packages for different funding strategies. There's not enough. It's like getting a group of people in that's doing all different subjects in a class, right? That doesn't work well. So everyone in this room is agreeing upon working towards the same goal. So yes, Joseph, yes. SBA loans can be bigger, and we can go after more afterwards, but here we're going after what we'll say is an initial $150,000. But I think I digress. So the point is, so we know who we want to help. As far as promotion, what we've seen is some really good success in working with referral partners or key influencers, churches, chambers, banks, professional associations, colleges, trade schools. I mean, that's where that's what you bring to the table. As a workshop coordinator, maybe it should be called community outreach coordinator, because that's your role, to reach out to the community, to be able to fill the seats so we can help them and you make a lot of money. So you can be as creative as you want. The point I'm trying to make here is it makes sense to get other people referring into it. All right, now when you talk about the money, how do you make money? Because when we say $100,000 from one-day workshop, one of two things happens. Is either people say, well, damn, that sounds great. That's more than I make normally in a year or in 6 months or quarter, however big hitters you are. Others say, well, that's bullshit, right? There's no way you can make $100,000 from one-day workshop. Well, let's follow the math because the numbers don't lie. So what you know is that for us to take someone through the SBA 7A Express loan package, it's $999.99, normally $2,500 with a $1,500 grant allocation. Let's just round it off and call it $1,000. Well, number one is you can mark that up. So in other words, you could charge a facility fee, an administrative fee, a registration fee. You could add a little bit, you could add a lot. That's up to you. We're just going to say, for example, this is not a requirement. It's up to you that you add $200 a person up front because they get the benefit of going through the curriculum in one day. And obviously there's value to that. So now let's say that you're marking it up by 200 times 10 attendees, which is what we're shooting for minimum. That's the 2,000 up front, right? So that math adds up. So we're okay there. And then also what many of you are doing, and you don't have to, it's up to you, right? You're the CEO of your business. You're controlling this. But what would be normal is that you would add a performance fee that the participants pay off the capital raise that they gain. And through this campaign, you don't share that with us. It's 100% yours. So let's just assume that we have 10 participants, could be more, could be less. Each get a $100,000 SBA loan, could be more, could be less. And that is going to generate then at 10% performance fee, 10,000 to you for each one, 10,000 times 10 is the 100,000 in performance fees that you would generate as referenced here. Is that guaranteed that you're going to make 100,000 off that one workshop? No, it's not. You see the math, you see the numbers. I guess the 2,000 is guaranteed just based upon 10 people paying 200 over the base price, but the back end will vary based upon the participants, of course. And again, you know, if you say, well, I'm willing to give this a try. Let's do one. Let's see how it works. I know that I'll at least make my 2,000 up front, have a potential of making a lot on the back end. Let's give it a try. Let's try one workshop, see how it works. You could do one workshop, and that's why we mentioned there's no strings attached. You're not like signing up where you have to set up workshops every week or every month or every quarter. Let's just do one. Let's just simply do one workshop, see how you like it, see how much money you make. Right? All right, so that describes the income. Now, you and I are smart enough to know that businesses generate income, but there's also expenses. So we want to be very transparent. Let's cover what the expenses are with this approach, right? And then we'll open it up for questions. Well, as we've stated, and there's no secret, $999 round up to 1,000 comes to us for providing the instructor the materials and technically conducting the class. So that's why we said earlier, anything that you market above, where did we say that? Anything that you market above is your front end money. So we know that that's an expense. We will cover our travel costs. So we cover the airfare, we cover the hotel, we cover the food. If we need an Uber or Lyft to get from the airport to wherever we're meeting, that's all of our expenses. No unknown, no surprise expenses. Straightforward, right? And then you are also responsible for getting the room and coordinating the physical event. And you might say, whoa, Tom, you had me until then. You're telling me that I got to pay for the room? Well, you build it in, right? So let's say you had to rent a room. Then instead of marking it up 200 per person, let's say you mark it up 300 per person. So now you got an extra $100 times 10, get $3,000 now to, I'm sorry, extra $1,000. But the point is, you don't have to eat into your margins. You can build it in. Let's take, who's on here? Let's take Alfred. Alfred is one of our more well-experienced referral partners. And so I know Alfred pretty well. So he's had a lot of success in his life. So when we, I was going to say if, but I'll be optimistic. When we do this with Alfred in the back of the room is going to have a cheese and a fruit tray with probably some bagels when they come in. In the afternoon, he'll probably have some cookies and brownies because he's going to want to have a really big event. Does Alfred have to eat that out of his pocket? No, it's just built into the price. So none of this is about reducing your income because you control the pricing based upon what you want to charge the consumer. All right, so now we've covered the role and the compensation of the coordinators. Let's wrap it up with implementation steps and then address any questions that you have. All right, so the first thing we need to do is select a date, right? It all starts with having a date because the date needs to be a date that you're available and that we have one of our instructors, myself, one of the others, available. So you're going to need to select a date for your in-person workshop. It'd be good to let us know where you want to have it. You know, is it going to be in Atlanta or in Alpharetta or where is it going to be? And email that over to us. So once that happens, then so now we're going to save the date. So now you're going to put $1,000 deposit down. We'll send an invoice. You say, oh, wait, Tom, you said that this was no cost to me. Well, we got to start on our end getting arrangements made. And I'll show you that it is not a cost to you. So let's go through it. So that's going to allow us to book the instructor and hold the date. When we've done these community educational events in the past, we didn't collect a deposit and we had a whole bunch of people say, oh yeah, I want to have an event in Chicago on September 12th and in Charlotte, North Carolina on the 14th. And we started booking flights and scheduling time, and then the event never occurred. And so we can't have that. So we do need to collect the deposit to hold the date. But there's no risk to you, right? Because people are going to register and the income is going to come into you. And so the first person then that you register that you would normally send $9.99 in, guess what? You don't send the $9.99 in, you keep it, right? So you will, once you had one person register, your deposit is recouped to you. Now, I guess worst case scenario, you have 0 people register, and that'd be horrible, and we shouldn't have that. But if for some reason we don't get anyone registered, don't worry. We can apply that $1,000 to 2 of the online on-demand participants. So in other words, you would just enroll people into the SBA Express Program online version, and then normally you would pay us $499.99 for each of those. We would waive that times 2, so you're even. So the only way you could come out upside down is if you start this process and then just completely drop the ball and do nothing else. Hopefully that makes sense. But we're simply not going to book an instructor, hold the date when there's no commitment on the end of the workshop coordinator. Not going to do it. Okay, so then as each person registers, you're going to collect whatever money that you want from them. We've talked about you determine what you're going to charge them. And then you're going to forward our portion to us. So in other words, you keep the upcharge. Now, you might say, well, wait a second here. What if this, I mean, these people need money and how are they going to come up with this expense? Well, it costs money to operate a business. Go to an accountant and say, Terrence is on here. He's a CPA and also one of our white label partners. Go to a CPA like Terrence and say, you know what? I'm a small business owner, but I don't really want to pay you to do my taxes. Or go to, I mean, that's just not the way it works, right? There's going to be a fee to go through this class. Now, the way to offset it, and we've seen some of you do this, we did one up in Hartford where the bank covered, or I shouldn't say the bank, a bank covered the cost. So it's certainly possible that you could get essentially funding from third parties to either provide scholarships to some people to attend, or they might cover the whole cost. And we've seen that happen. So that is something that you could explore. But I think you're making a mistake, and we've made this mistake before. If you go into this thinking, okay, I'm going to be able to get enough sponsorship money that'll be free for everyone, and we go out and promote it free. Well, if you don't secure that sponsorship, then you've got a lot of missed expectations. And so I would schedule the event, and then we can put together a press release about this specific event, because now it's not a concept or a theory, it's a specific event scheduled for a specific day at a specific place. Then going and securing scholarships, grants, contributions is much easier. I found it's very difficult to do for something that's hypothetical. Oh, we're thinking about doing this. Would you like to contribute? But the bottom line is you're going to collect the money from them, however much you want to collect. You forward our portion. The rest is your profit. Last bullet, we're at the bottom of the page. No less than 20 days prior to the event. So we got to, normally we're going to schedule these out 30 to 45 days. Could be less, could be more, it's up to you. But about 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks out, we need to reconcile and say, do we have the critical mass in place to have this in-person event? What we've learned is that having at least 10 participants who have registered and paid. So in other words, you've already got your 2,000 up front. You're not waiting. Sorry, that keeps highlighting differently. You're not waiting until later to get your 2,000. You're getting the 2,000 up front, even before the event occurs, right? So we need to put our heads together about 3 weeks before, make sure, okay, have we hit our number? Do we have 10 people registered and paid? Because if we have that, then we know we're going live. If not, what we may need to do is switch them over to online on-demand curriculum. If you're at less than 10, 20 days out, then you have a choice. We can go ahead and keep the date, keep the in-person, and then you just need to cover the shortfall. In other words, you could backfill that in afterwards by continuing to register. Because I'm not saying that you have to stop registering 20 days before, but we need to take a snapshot 20 days before and say, do we have enough critical mass for the event? So you could either cover the shortfall yourself if you wanted, or through grants, sponsorships, what have you, or as I mentioned, we can switch them over to the online on demand. All right, so that is a deeper dive into this concept. We've done it in the past. It's worked remarkably well. I think the last one we did before the pandemic was up in Chicago with Will. Let me see if Will's on today's. No, Will's not on today, but he coordinated it, and it was actually with a group of entrepreneurs, ironically all Ukrainian. And so a group of Ukrainian business owners. So it wasn't meant to be an exclusive group, but everyone in the room was Ukrainian and entrepreneurs, and they were part of, I guess, the Greater Chicago Ukrainian Business Association. I don't know exactly where Will found them, but the bottom line is, if you want to facilitate having an event, we'd love to come do it with you. It's very valuable. All right, so let's working through your questions and comments and feedback. So Isa says, sounds good. Yes, we definitely should do one in St. Louis. Shondel's looking at locations already. She started yesterday. Awesome. Nikki asked, can we do it virtually? And no, we're not. We already have a virtual on demand. So we're already doing that. But no, we're not going to have, because here's my experience. And again, you've heard this before. I used to be a college professor, and full-time, and I taught in person as well as online classes. Had one hybrid class. It was a combination too, but we'll ignore that. And I think it's an insane idea to try to get a group of people together for an 8-hour hands-on event, because it won't happen, right? They're going to get distracted. They're going to multitask. We won't be able to provide them the level of support, because here we're all in a room, right? And you and I can walk around the room, and they raise their hand and we help them when they get stuck. So this is an in-person model. If they don't want the in-person model, that's okay. That it's already available, and we have lots of people enrolling already, but we're not going to do the one-day intensive hands-on virtually. All righty, so who else has questions, comments, concerns on this? So if you want to participate, great, participate. Help people make money. Fine with me. If you say, hey, no, Tom, this is not my cup of tea, not a problem. If you're someone like Bruce is a big hitter. He's got relationships in lots of different markets. So with Bruce, he might schedule 3 or 4. We might do one in Atlanta, one in Chicago, one in Kansas City. So you could look at where, if you have an existing sphere of influence, we could schedule multiple. It is not unusual. Let me say it slower. It is not unusual for people to fly in from other cities and attend these. When I worked for the SBA, I did a very similar, not exactly the same, but a very similar workshop. And we were in Tyler, Texas at the time. We would frequently have people come in from Houston, Texas, a 4-hour drive or a flight, I guess. But normally people would drive in. I'm going to say normally, people would drive in, normally not fly in, but they would drive in 4 hours to attend the session. So I wouldn't think small. It's not just about who do you know, in a 5-mile radius that could benefit from this. I think it's, a 100-mile radius, potentially to as much as a 200, 250-mile radius. The more of you that get involved and have these, the more we can make a national impact. And frankly, the more accessible it will be. But right now, we're just getting started. And so, I don't know, we'll probably have 10 of these as my expectation in the month of September. And if you want to be one of our workshop coordinators for one of the 10, then you know exactly what the process is. Anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns? Isa asked about the lead time, and he's interested in LA. Yeah, LA. I got a funny story for Isa. So I had one of these events in New York City, and it went well. It was on Times Square. We had a smaller group. It was only about 6 to 8 people, but it was in one of those Hilton rooms that actually overlooked Times Square. So it was awesome. So anyway, so I did an event in New York City. And so then I needed to fly to Los Angeles, actually Orange County, to do the next event 2 days later. Well, I did fly from New York to LA, but my luggage didn't make it. It was horrible, Isa. So I had to do the workshop, at least the first 2/3, until the luggage finally arrived in shorts and a t-shirt. That was funny. But as far as lead time, which was Isa's question, not about my travel woes, I would schedule about 45 days out, get the room secured, and then we start back filling in. Because again, we need to reconcile 20 days out and say, okay, are we on track or not? So right now, we could certainly schedule for September. October might even be better. But the stronger the sphere of influence you have, some of you have the ability to just get the word out and fill it up in a matter of a few days. And so then all of a sudden we could be scheduling early September, right? Because the goal is just to give it enough time to make sure we have critical mass. All right, Lon's asking about the maximum number of people. There's technically not a maximum number of people. 10 is the minimum that we're looking for. I guess the maximum is really determined by the room. Obviously, you're going to make more the more people that attend, but it's up to you. There's technically no maximum. And Lon also asked, what do they need to bring? So when we were first putting this together, we contacted Sprint, which is now owned by T-Mobile, and they did agree to sponsor iPads for everyone that attends the workshop. I've not revisited with them since the takeover has occurred, but normally they would need to bring a device because we're going to be filling out these documents. And so that's a great point. Lon's asking, what do they need to bring? So I can get back with T-Mobile and see if they'll provide an iPad with 4G, 5G, whatever it is, or Wi-Fi connection. But let's just assume that we won't have that in place yet. So everyone's going to need to bring a device to be able to complete the documents for. Thank you, Lon, for that question. All right, Isa's going to do one in St. Louis, then Atlanta, and then LA. Yeah, so that's fine. We can schedule. If you're targeting the same sphere of influence, then scheduling, for instance, 3 and putting all 3 dates out at once makes sense. If really you don't have some common group that we're trying to reach out to invite, then they're really just 3 separate events in 3 separate cities. So you see the difference. Like we work with the National Black Association, Black Chamber of Commerce NBWCC or something like that. But in that case, we needed to have multiple events in multiple cities, and that whole campaign, that whole schedule was built at once so people could make arrangements to attend. All right, and then the last question we have is day of the week is the ask that Sonia's asking. So I don't know that there's a perfect day of the week. I think people are busy and they have work, whether it be their own work or working for someone else. And a lot of people have families and other responsibilities. And so the key is getting it on their schedule, 30 days or so in advance, and then they build around it. If they end up not showing up, then they can complete it virtually so they won't lose their money. We've done a lot on Saturdays. That one I mentioned up in Chicago, it was a Saturday event. And so that went really well. I mean, I can be flexible. The three of us that are the qualified instructors, quote unquote, will work with you. Saturdays have worked well, but it could be whatever day. I think you're never going to have a perfect day. So if you have the day, we put it on the calendar 30 days in advance, or get it on their calendar 30 days in advance. Most people can work around that. All right, Nikki, and I can follow up with you with your unrelated question later. So there we are. So, I mean, I'm excited about this. We were really big into in-person education, and the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic started to wane. So then we started to look at it more, and then the pandemic flared out again with the new variation. But now I believe that we're ready to go. I'm not going to wear a mask as I'm teaching this. If you want to wear a mask, if the attendees want to wear a mask, that's fine. If you want to set it up where they have 6 feet between each attendee where they're seated, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. You can put whatever protection in that you care to. I mean, we won't all share straws and drink out of the same iced tea, but as far as what you want to do for your setup, that's what your role as a coordinator is. All right, so there we are. Thank you very much. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a great day. Bye.